Ryse, son of a... Ryse, son of Rome.
Okay, let's try out this chud-ass game, see what the fuss is all about. Okay, let's go. Let's fucking go. Sit down, bro. Sit the fuck down, bitch. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Bitch, sit down. Be humble. Just be humble. Bro, this shit is Can we talk about how pretty this shit is? Yo, where is my Assassin's Creed game set in Antonine Rome? I've been waiting for that shit my whole fucking life, bro. Where it's at? Jesus. Bro, get your ass up. Get your ass up right now. Yo, this is kind of crazy. This game is kind of crazy. I ain't gonna lie. This shit is kind of mad, bro. Fuck him up. Fuck him up.
Formation!
Oh, hell yeah. Me and the broskies just pushing forth with the broskies. Squat it up. Any day. Any day.
Yes, go!
This shit is kind of high, bro. Look at the background. Look at all the shit, the fucking catapults flying around and shit. Oh, hell fucking yeah. Let's go. Let's fucking go. Me and the broskies did that shit. We did that. Boudica. More like Boudica. Alright? Chat. Am I right, chat? Chat. Am I right? Okay. Chill.
Hold, man! Hold formation!
Let's fucking go. Alright, yeah. Steady. And now shoot. Wait. Shoot. Let's go. Ready. Shoot.
Soldiers! A great
Bro,
battle
this is crazy.
awaits us! They are coming for us!
Look at that
Take
shit.
everything we have, everything we love!
That's mad.
They are determined to take it all from us! Let them come! And we will see if they come! Ambush! Clear the bridge! Cover me!
I gotta get the ladder.
Call out their archers!
Shut up. Is that it? Okay, we got it. Hell yeah.
The courthouse is off limits,
Bro. You big, but you a pussy. You big and all for nothing. For what? For what? Why are you so big? For what? What are you even doing with all that? Wow, this is insane. This shit is insane. Wait, there's graffiti. That's super cool. Nero solvere debes. I think they're trying to say like he must pay, but I'm not sure they've written it correctly. Nero is a eunuch. These are cool as hell. Little Medusa head. Nice. Nice. Okay, bro. How fucking cool is that? How cool is that? Not too shabby. Not too fucking shabby. Sit down. Bro, know your fucking place. Know your place. Oh, hell fucking yeah. Let's fucking go. Yo, what the fuck is going on? Why does Boudica have elephants? That makes no sense. Why the fuck? Where did this bitch get an elephant? Are there elephants in Britain now? Where, bro? Where? Boudica. Boudica. Just let go. The other side is waiting for you. Just let go. Alright, you know what? This is kind of a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie. I, currently had a bit of a blast on this. Very shortly, mind you, because this is something you finish in one sitting, really. It's a bite-sized little piece of hors d'oeuvre gaming that goes down fairly smoothly, if you just swallow and move on. But which also raises some further questions. If you let the taste linger a little bit longer, and ponder why it is that it was cooked in this precise manner. Really, there's a simple conundrum at the heart of my feelings about this game, which stems from the following two facts. Fact number 1, I think this game is too short. Fact number 2, I think this game isn't good enough to be any longer. So, this seems contradictory, doesn't it? Why would I want the game to be longer if I don't like it? Well, it's a bit more nuanced than that, because I do quite like it, really. Or I should say, there's many things about it that I like. And so, I do wish that it went deeper. But the problem is really this. There are things about this game that only work if it's as short as it is. The combat system, the executions, the focus ability, for example, all of these are perfectly fine for a 6-7 hour game, but already start verging on the repetitive. So they would go from perfectly fine to perfectly boring if the game had been any longer. The same can be said for much of the story, which is really nothing to chisel tablets home about, and can be summed up in all of 5 words. Emperor bad, do revengey stuffs. That's pretty much it. I mean, you could say it goes deeper than that, but that would be you saying it. I wouldn't personally say that. I would rather say that it tries to go deeper than that, but doesn't really know how, because it's written by people who've only ever read one book. And that book was probably the novelification of Halo 3, Dawn of the Flood, Part 2, Chapter 3, Cortana's Galactic Farts. Okay, slander aside, it just gives off slightly illiterate energy. You know, like something that really was put together by people who don't really like stories, and were sort of half remembering a bunch of movies they've seen and lumped a bunch of tropes together to try and make something out of them. There's also this attempt to go into a deity direction with the inclusion of some god figures fighting over the fate of mankind, which is frankly embarrassing, and when you take a step back, is really just an answer to the question, what if we wrote a story inspired by Assassin's Creed? But not the good parts, no, just the bits about the ancient alien gods that all but ruined the series. Let's just take that part and try to cram it into a 3-minute cutscene at the end to see if people fall for it. I'm not buying into that. I don't have patience for that sort of shit. Anyway, more to the point, my dilemma is the following. All of this, while not great, is fine enough, I suppose, for a game of this length. So why would I want it to be longer? Isn't this the perfect length for it? Because the structure is there, and it is very solid. The game looks great, the graphics are beautiful, it plays great, the decors are awesome, the ambiance is thick and fantastic, it feels intense and immersive. There are some wonderful sections like the Wickerman Zone or the Dover Landing. Okay, Predator. Okay. Whoa. Bro, this is cool as hell though. This is cool as hell. And look at the reflection of the light and all that on the floor. That's awesome. You're gonna fight here? Banger. Banger. What was that fuck?
On me! Move!
Hell yeah, bro. Where's Normandy? This is Omaha Beach. This is kind of crazy.
Advance!
Bro, this shit is hype as hell. They had this bitch on the Xbox One? What? Oh. Good set pieces with proper scale and chaos where you really feel like you're at the front of a big fucking war.
Defend the rear! Defend the rear!
Defend your rear. Oh hell fucking yeah. Bro, this shit is so cool. It feels so heavy. It feels big, you know? There's like scale to this bitch. Sit down. There's so many good things about it, which do end up being just put at the service of a pretty mediocre narrative, and this kind of lets you down. But that are also held back by what feels like an unwillingness to ever follow something all the way through. There are so many good ideas gameplay-wise, but a lot of it kind of feels like it was developed up to, say, 60% of what it should have been. This goes big time for the combat, which is actually really cool and works great for the first couple of hours, until you're confronted with the fact that this is it. Like, that's all there is, and all there will ever be to it. It doesn't develop, it doesn't grow, it doesn't diversify, and it just lingers in its starting position for the rest of the fucking game. Now, when I began, I immediately liked the combat, and thought it's gonna be really cool to see how this grows, because you have a fantastic foundation on top of which a normally constituted game would usually build a bunch of real estate. You would go on to unlock new skills, new moves, new counters, new combos, new stances, you would upgrade your weapon or your shield or this and that. But no, there is nothing of the sort. Nothing is really done with that. There are skills to unlock, if you can call them that, but they're just about getting a bit more health or 2% more XP, so nothing is really done with that either. There is a focus system, which you can use to trigger a special ability, but there aren't any abilities to choose from, as you might expect, or any way to improve or modify this ability really. It's just your generic rage type thing, where for a few seconds the screen goes piss yellow and you hit faster, and then that's it. So once again, nothing is really done with that. The combat centers on executions, which are pretty cool. The first, let's be generous, 80 times you do them, but then not so cool the following 800 times you do them, since they become very repetitive and eventually outright annoying to the point where you start actually kind of trying to avoid them. So once again, nothing substantial is really done with that. These executions also have the effect of making the game ridiculously easy. I mean, there are 4 difficulties overall, the highest of which is locked at the beginning. So I played on the hardest difficulty available to me. And I must have died like, 10 times in the whole game? And a lot of those were because I was kind of taking the piss and doing random shit. But if you lock in and just execute everyone, it's kind of hard to see why you would ever die once. The game itself is easy enough as it is, but it seems that the executions were introduced, or at least made into such a centerpiece of the game, specifically in order to make it more accessible. And while there's nothing wrong with making it accessible to more players, you are still supposed to balance that out in some way. And it's not really okay for your highest difficulty setting to pose no challenge whatsoever. There's also a sort of stance system in place in which you get to choose between getting one of 4 different bonuses while fighting. Every time you perform an execution, you receive a bonus, and depending on your stance, this can be a boost to your damage, refilling your focus bar, recovering health, or receiving extra XP. This is a really cool system on paper, if only something had been done with it. Because what you end up with is having to perform a bunch of tiresome executions in order to get a very minute bonus. Now, you can fill your focus bar, great, but I only have a single focus ability and it lasts 2 seconds and it's not interesting. So I have no incentive to try and keep my focus bar filled. You can get health back, and sure, you will do this every now and then when you're low on health, but the game is super fucking easy. And if you spend the entire game on the health stance, you will literally never die. It will be incredibly difficult for you to die even on purpose. Extra damage, again, not necessary for a game that's super easy. As for the extra XP, I mean, this is the one that I ended up using for the majority of the game. I was on the XP stance, but kinda serves no purpose again, because you're using that XP to unlock a bunch of very uninteresting skills that do not impact gameplay in any way whatsoever. You're not unlocking new attacks or new abilities or new combos or anything like that. You're just unlocking very minute statistical upgrades. Also, for example, these could have been actual different stances that perhaps affect the combat gameplay in some way to at least diversify it a little bit. But they don't. Nothing is really done with them. You can also buy upgrades for the executions, but these don't impact gameplay and only serve to very minutely increase the bonuses, so that once you buy the skill, instead of getting a 5% XP boost upon execution, you will now be getting
A 7% XP boost. Yeah!
So once again, nothing is really done with that. We can go on with the good ideas that are left out to dry. I love the battle formation system, for example, which is great but criminally underused, where you have to push forth with your squad under enemy fire and find the balance between advancing, defending behind your shield, and shooting at the enemy lines. This is always cool to do, but if we're being honest, it's exciting only the first time, when you're still a little confused and it feels like there's stakes to it. Because after the second or third time, you realize it's a very easily solvable mechanic, and you start just doing it in a very matter-of-factly way without losing a single soldier, because it's actually stupidly easy. This is something that could have been used to great potential in battles or sieges, for sorties, for defending against oncoming charges and so on. There's so many ways in which this could have been utilized and could have gone down as a fantastic mechanic. But instead, nothing is really done with it. I also really like the few tactical decisions you get to make, where you have to choose, for example, what you want your archers to do or where you prefer to send your reinforcements. And each choice has some gameplay implications, because you might get missile cover, but at the cost of the barricade at your back being overrun, for example. Or else, you send your archers to defend it, but have a harder time yourself fighting more enemies with no support.
What are your targets, sir?
I'll get to choose again. Yeah, I mean the same one. They're just sending the siege towers in conveniently small groups of like 7-8 people that we are absolutely slaughtering, and then they send another one and another one. Like, that really works to our advantage. We can keep going like this for days, buddy. We're killing them with no casualties on our end, and we are slicing them to fucking bits. Keep sending them. This is another really cool system, but this too feels underused, because the occasions are few and far apart, and not nearly enough consequence is pulled out of them. A lot more could very easily have been done with it. A lot more impact could have been drawn out of these decisions, and they could also have been chained back to back so that it's not only single decisions that affect given moments, but maybe even the sequence of a number of choices back to back that have a larger impact on the battle as a whole. There are ways this could have been brought up to its full potential, but you guessed it, nothing is really done with it. And this is generally the story with this game as a whole. It's riddled with good ideas that are never fully embraced and always feel kind of half-assed. And this, to me, is far more annoying than a game that doesn't have ideas at all. Because it's very easy to just chuck that one in the bin of bad game and move on with your life. It costs you nothing and you have no regrets, because you didn't miss out on anything. That game was never going to be good. But Ryse doesn't half-ass having ideas. It has them, and plenty of them, but then goes on to half-ass their implementation and development, which is kind of infuriating, because you now do have regrets and keep thinking that this could have been wonderful if only enough care and love had been given to it. What this ends up feeling like is a game that was rushed, but not at the last second, not rushed in the sense of forcing it to drop before it's ready, because this would have resulted in probably a buggy mess that doesn't do its job well. That's not the case here. The game feels very much finished and fairly polished in technical terms. It does do its job well. The problem is that the job it set out to do just wasn't really the right one. The difference here is maybe best expressed in the following way. It's kind of like if you hire someone to paint your house, and after a few days you call them and say, hey, the job needs to be finished tomorrow. And so they just go around rushing everything and do a bad job of painting the entire house. That's what usually happens with a rushed game. Ryse is more akin to telling the contractor ahead of time, you only have 2 days to paint. And so they decide to spend those 2 days painting not the entire house in a bad manner, but only the living room. Now, they've had the time they needed to do a good job. They've painted the living room very well, and it's not half-assed at all. But that still leaves the rest of the fucking house unpainted. So while the job was done well, it simply wasn't enough. It wasn't the entire job. It couldn't possibly cover all the ground that needed to be covered. This is what Ryse feels like. It feels like a game that was pitched conceptually and then not given enough time or resources to be done properly, and so a decision was made to do a good job at making some of the game they wanted, rather than a bad job at making the entire game they wanted. This is the feeling that the game gives off to me. Almost like a sort of tech demo, a proof of concept that should then have been followed by the rest of the game, but ended up being followed by nothing. But I cannot both complain that the game is too short and that it's not good enough to be longer. Had it actually been longer in its current state, it would have been a far lesser game. because a lot of the issues it currently has don't even fully have the time to establish themselves as problematic over the course of the 6 hours or so that the campaign lasts, because once again, it is ridiculously easy and you will die like 5 times on the highest difficulty. So the short length helps make the limited and repetitive gameplay more palatable. In other words, for what the game is, this is actually the perfect length, and it should not have been any longer. But, I still very much feel like the game could have been so much more. Of course, if it had been longer, it would have required more work to be put into it, that goes without saying. But this work would very much have been worth doing, because we could have ended up with a genuinely great piece of gaming here. Because the majority of the game is either already good, such as the ambience and the rhythm and locations and so on, or lays on good foundations that are easily scalable, such as the combat and many gameplay elements that are very good ideas, but simply not brought out to full fruition. The only problem that remains really is the story, because that is not scalable. And if it was bad over 6 hours, I can only imagine it would have been even worse over 30 hours. But then again, God knows I've played so many games with shit stories and still found a way to enjoy them for what they were. That part is unfortunately not something that could have ever been fixed, because even with more time and resources, the team behind it wouldn't have changed. And they would certainly have started making better narrative decisions. So it is what it is in that department. It was always doomed to be a mediocre story, so at least that's something we don't have to feel any regrets over missing out on. Okay, so let me guess, because he was talking about Nemesis and about all this stuff. So I guess the Emperor is going to kill his father, or will be somehow responsible for killing his father, and then he's going to have the Nemesis knife, and then he's going to go kill the Emperor with the fucking Nemesis knife. Like, there's so many, you can't even call it hints, or like foreshadowing, even that would be too generous. They're really just kind of laying out the story way too thick, so that it's incredibly obvious what's going to happen. And, I mean, it's not exactly super engaging, is it?
By the Emperor's mark, his will is done!
Bro,
Barbarians didn't kill my father. The Emperor did.
what did I say?
Save Rome
What?
from them.
What the fuck did I say? Like 5 hours ago, I said that shit. Shocking turn of events, who could have seen it coming? But the rest of the game, to me, while I enjoyed playing it, and while I think there's a lot to like, ends up leaving in my mouth a bitter taste of what could have been, rather than a satisfactory sensation as to what was. Now, there was a sequel, rumored, which apparently fell through due to a dispute between Crytek and Microsoft as to who was going to be owner of the IP, and this is really too bad, because it's easy to imagine how they could have taken the basis of Ryse 1 and developed the sequel into what the first game was always meant to be. In the meantime, this is a little aperitif you can give yourself. You sit down one morning, make yourself a cup of coffee or cup of tea or whatever it might be your beverage of choice, you launch the game, and you'll be done by the afternoon. It's that kind of thing. And for what it is, it's an enjoyable experience. I believe that all these complaints that I have about it right now are probably going to slowly fade away from my memory as time goes by. And a year from now, 2 years from now, when I think back on this game, I will think of it as something short and sweet. My memory will be, oh yeah, that was kind of fun. Yeah, that was a fun one. And that's the way that I'll remember it. Of course, if I sit back down to replay it eventually, I'll be like, oh yeah, okay, I forgot about that and this problem and that issue, and all these troubles will come back to the surface. But it's something that I believe will go down in my memory as having been a very nice little fun experience. Not particularly engaging and certainly not particularly demanding, but a cute little piece of gaming. And that's kind of how you should go about it. If you're interested in this game, don't set your expectations too high, because the overall quality isn't all that high. But also because if you expect this to be some kind of grand gaming experience, you will be severely disappointed, because it is a very, very small game. But if you feel like spending a decent, half a day playing something, you could do a lot worse than that, buddy.
Rome would endure. From then until the last days of man.